Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Aguayo, and this is my presentation on muscle overuse and its implications. First, let's go over a quick introduction. A triathlon is considered a multi-sport that involves swimming, biking, and running with varying distances. A concern that arises is a triathlete's exposure to a variety of injuries due to or in combination with the different actions the athlete must perform. In one study, it was found that out of 656 participants, 74.8% had experienced one injury beyond 2.5 years of participating in Ironmans. In the study, injury was defined as a cessation of training for at least one day due to musculoskeletal issues. In this presentation, we'll discuss the incidence of overuse injuries in triathlons and the physiological importance of rest for prevention and rehabilitation. This study, conducted by Vleck and partners, examined the incidence of injury for Olympic distance athletes and Ironman athletes in a 5-year span. What they found was that for all participants, 43.1% had a traumatic injury, which is an injury caused by an external factor, and 72.2% had an overuse injury caused by repetitive movement. The most serious overuse triathlon injuries tend to come from running, with cycling being a close second. These injuries are most correlated with the time lost for training. Some risk factors can be from previous injuries or congruent training in more than one discipline, as there can be a cumulative stress effect that leads to injury. In this bar graph, we can see the distribution of overuse injuries in athletes. What they found was that knee injuries were the most prevalent overuse injury in both groups. This study emphasized that it's important that triathletes start prioritizing prevention of injury and recurrence of injuries for the lower back, Achilles tendon, and knees. In this next study by Rist-Olainen, they had focused on clarifying risk factors that cause overuse injuries in training. Naturally, it's due to the interaction of multiple risk factors that increase the chances of musculoskeletal injuries, one of the risk factors being a lack of rest. They also found that athletes who had an overuse injury averaged fewer days of resting in between training. What they concluded was that the risk of injury is 5 times higher in athletes who receive less than 2 resting days per training week. There's also a physiological importance to rest. According to this article from Ross, it's found that after prolonged bouts of exercise, there were neural and contractile factors that led to impairments on the knee extensors. The authors believed it's due to damage of the muscle membrane, which impacts neuromuscular transmission and action potential impulses within the muscle, as it's due to a decrease in calcium ions or an alteration in the myofibril complex sensitivity to calcium ions. It could also be due to a decrease in corticospinal excitability, which decreased the amount of muscle fibers activated during voluntary contraction. They concluded that without adequate rest, muscle weakness could persist. To conclude this presentation, the biggest risk of injury comes from overuse of muscles without adequate rest. To prevent overuse injuries, it's suggested that an athlete gets 2 full days of rest per training week minimum. Thank you for listening.